The Batak magic wand. The stick, cut from a special kind of wood, kayu tunggalan, has a length of about 1.70 meters. In hardwood, figures of human beings and animals are often artistically carved in a row above each other. The wand ends in an iron point with, with, its, with which it is driven into the ground during ceremonies. In some places, and in the priest language, the iron is said to be made by people from all points of the compass of Lingga Payung, and coming from the 4 points, 7 times forged and 7 times melted and made into a deadly iron. The topmost feature bears as a rule of a helmet in the little cavity of the head. The atrocious magic broth called pupuk was deposited, and round the head red, white and black threads were wound diagonally. On this tricolored turban is stuck a plume of human hair, horsehair, or cock's feathers. On most wands, 7 figures of human beings are seen, also the figures of a snake and of a bull or ox. As one knows, the number 7 plays an important part in Batak religion. According to the Toba Batak, every human being possesses 7 souls. The Toba Batak origin of the tunggal panaluan is generally recognized by the Bataks. But although the country near the legendary mountain Pusubuhit is accepted as the place where the first sacred sticks came from, the magic wand is found in all the Batak provinces. Of its origin, the following legend is told. At Sidorok Pangururan, on the island of Samosir, the division between land and water had already taken place, when a certain man lived there, called Guru Hatia Bulan. He was a heathen priest and was named Datu Arak Dipane. His wife was called Nansindak Panaluan. They had been married for a long time before this woman became pregnant. When she was expecting less, it took abnormally long before the child was born. Everyone in the village thought it a mysterious case. At the time, there was a famine in the country. The weather was unbearably hot, and hot grass covered pools and swamps. In consequence of this, continuous growth of the Raja Bius, head of a communion of sacrifice, became very uneasy. He went to Guru Hatia Bulan and said to him, "It is advisable that we should find out and ask the just deity why drought and famine have continued for such a long time. Such a thing never occurred." Guru Hatia Bulan replied, "Everything is possible." Then said the Raja Bius, "Everyone is astonished at your wife's long pregnancy." The midwife declared that this pregnancy has lasted too long. A quarrel arose about these words, but no one was wounded or killed. Meanwhile, the wife gave birth to the twins, a boy and a girl. Immediately after the children's birth, the rain came down in torrents. All the plants in the field and in the wood lived, and the world looked fresh and green again. Guru Hatia Bulan had an ox killed to reconcile the evil powers. He called together all people and the chiefs to a feast, on which the names of the children should be made known. The boy was called Si Aji Ronda Hatahutan, the girl Si Borutapi Nawasan. After the festive repast, the guests advised that these children should not be brought up together. The one should be taken to the west, the other to the east, for the birth of the twins, especially of a different sex, is a very unfavorable thing according to all conceptions. Guru Hatia Bulan, however, did not take any notice of the wise counsels of the old ones and chiefs. In the in the long run, however, it was proved that the wise man had been right. Gughatia Bulan built a little hut on the sacred mountain Pusuk Buhit, where he took his children. A dog had to take care of them, and every day Gughatia Bulan brought them food. When the children had grown up, it happened that the girl, during a walk, saw a tree called Piu Piu Tanggule or How Tada Tada, the trunk of which was full of long thorns. This tree bore ripe, juicy fruits. Si Borutapina was unwilling to eat the fruits and therefore climbed in the tree. She picked some of the fruit and ate them, but at the same time she was swallowed up by the trunk and became one with it. Only her head remained visible. Her brother waited until the evening for her return and then went to the wood to investigate, where he called her name in a low voice. In the neighborhood of the tree, his call was answered by the girl, and when he had drawn near, she told him how she had been as it were swallowed up by the tree. Sajironda climbed in the tree, but he also absorbed by the trunk and grew one with it. Both cried for help, but their pitiful voices were lost in the profound darkness. The next morning were lost in the profound darkness. The next morning, the dog came running along. The animal jumped against the trunk, and the dog too was swallowed up by the wood, and only the head remained visible. Oghatia Bulan came as usual to bring food for his children. When he did not see them, he followed his son's footprints, and at last reached the tree, where he only saw his children's heads, and the head of the dog. He was overcome with grief. Gughatia Bulan then went out to look for a wizard and found one called the Tupang Manuk calling. The Datu came to the tree accompanied by many people from far and near, for the event had become known everywhere. Musical instruments were fetched and the Datu commenced his work. He mumbled prayers to dispose the spirits favorably and did whatever he could to break the charm. After having done the necessary ceremonies, he climbed into the tree, but he was also swallowed up. Dumbfounded, Gughatia Bulan and the spectators returned home. They did not give up hoping, however, and looked for another Datu. A great wizard was one named Marangin Bosi or Datu Maratang Maliting. This person went to the tree but was absorbed too. Now, Datu Bogu si Baso Bolon. Now the Tubogu Sibaso came under the tree. He also swallowed up. The same thing happened to the Datus Hogbong Magpong and Siajibai of Jolma Sibigu, who was partly human, partly devil. A snake was swallowed up. Guru Hatia Bulan was at his wits' end. He had spent a great deal of money of the datus for use and sacrifices to the spirits. Whatever was asked him was eagerly paid by him, but now he had lost heart. Some days some days later, a Datu Papasadijang announced himself. He declared with certainty that he could set the people at liberty. Gurhatia Bulan believed in the Datu and provided him with everything he asked for. The Datu declared that they should sacrifice to all the spirits, the spirit of the land, the spirit of the spirit of water, the spirit of the wood, and all the others. After that, the people would be set at liberty. Gurhatia Bulan prepared the sacrifices according to the Datu's indications. They then went to the tree with all the village people, and after the Datu had made use of his witchcraft, he cut down the tree. When the tree fell, all the heads suddenly disappeared, also the heads of the dog and the serpent. Everyone was dumbfounded, but the Datu told Gurhatia Bulan to cut the tree to pieces and to carve in wood the images of the people that had disappeared. Thus it was done. He cut the trunk into pieces and carved in the stick the images of five men, 2 women, a dog, and a serpent. After these 9 images had thus been obtained, everyone returned to the village. When they had arrived there, the gong was struck, while an ox killed in honor of those that were represented by the images. The stick was placed against the front of a rice set, after which Guru Hatia Bulan danced. After the Datu Pakpasagi sang executed an ecstatic dance, in this way he made the spirits of those swallowed up to enter into him. After the spirits had taken possession of him, they began to speak. They were the spirit of si Ajidonda Hatahutan, si Borutapi Nauwasan, Datu Pulo Pucung Nauli, si Pagjabulan, si Mebusilbus, Guru Manggatak Porang, si Sanggang Maolaol, dari Mangabat, si Upar Mangalele, Barita Soka Pangurugan. They said, Father sculpture, thou hast carved our images, and we have eyes but cannot see, we have mouths but cannot speak, we have ears but cannot hear, we have hands but cannot grasp, we curse thee, sculpture. The Datu answered from the same mouth, Don't curse me, but this knife, for without it I could not have cut your image. The knife replied, Do not curse me, but the smith, for if he had not forced me, I should never have become a knife. The smith said, Do not curse me, but the bellows, for without their blowing I could not have boxed anything. The bellows said, Do not curse us, but Guru Hatia Bulan, for if he had not commanded us to act as we did, we should never done with this work. When it concerned Guru Hatia Bulan, the spirit spoke again from the wizard mode. I curse thee, father, and also thee, mother, who has given birth to me. When Guru Hatia Bulan heard this, he replied, Do not curse me, but curse yourselves. You that have fallen into the pit, you killed my lands, and you not possessing any descendants. Thereupon the spirit said, When it must be thus, Father, use me henceforth as rain conjurer in the wet season, rainmaker in the dry season, counselor in the governing of the country, fellow combatant in the war, cause of corruption in sickness and death, and at the same time the power to track down a thief or a robber. After this, the ceremony was over, and everyone went on his way. Here follows another legend. Long ago, there lived a Raja, and one afternoon, after a night in the full of the moon, Tula, twins were born to him, a son and a daughter who grew up together. When the royal children were about 6 years old, it was observed that their relation was too much intimate, but though everyone disapproved, the Raja's son paid not the slightest attention to public opinion and continued to treat his sister in a way not according to the adat, i.e. as a lover. The son was called Sitapi. The son was called Sitapi Nauwasan, one suffering from thirst from Uwas thirst, and the daughter Siaji Donda Hatahutan, a silent timid. Donda Sanskrit means staff is considered by the Bataks to mean silent at the same time of compelling respect, tahut, fear, anxiety. Both children were very beautiful in face and body. When they were 10 years old, Sitapi Nauwasan raped his sister out in the fields ladang. Sitapi Donda Hatahutan complained to her parents of her brother's behavior, but as the parents loved the children very much, they did not punish them according to the other decree, i.e. hanging both sinners until death followed. Quietly the lovers were separated by absenting the brother for a short time and bringing Sitapi Donda Hatahutan, a kampong situated about 2 days' journey. Today's journey is from her own village, and when her maternal uncle Tulang was to take charge of her. One that one that the name is now Sitapidonda Hasautan. South mean accomplished happened, i.e. the kind of union had taken place. When Sitapi Rajana was son, failed to find his sister. Upon his return, he was inconsolable. The parents declared that she was dead and buried. In reality, they had buried a banana trunk representing a human body, substitute image of Opposili, and they showed him to the grave. Sitapi Rajana Wasan made with grief, went to the grave in the full of the moon to exhume his sister. Great, great was his astonishment when he dug up the poor city. Malay Sili, recompense, reparation, substitution, Simbat, Parsilihi, and his surprise turned into joy when he realized that his beloved sister must be alive. To find out where she was, he secretly made inquiry among the Raja's courtiers, and thus he learned that his sister was kept hidden somewhere in the kampung east of his father's domain. At once he journeyed eastward, and in a certain village he saw his sister pounding rice. She embraced her ardently, and at once eloped with her, with the intention of bringing her back to his own kampung. The rice which she had been pounding they took along as provisions. When the absence of Sitapi Rajana Wasan and Sitapi Donda Hasautan was noticed, a third party was sent out from both kampungs to look for the royal children. In the meantime, after working for a day and a half, the small supply of rice was exhausted, and the two began to look for a fruit tree, so that they might appease to their hunger with its fruit. At last they found a tanggul tree, and Sitapi Rajana Wasan climbed into it, and in order to pluck his sweet fruit, he threw some fruit to his sister, and then taught her to climb into the tree so that they might eat their meal together. But when brother and sister tried to descend from the tree, they found they could not move. Unconsciously, they had become petrified and now remained, as it were, glued to the tree trunk. A monkey, which came to eat of the tanggulan fruit, also stiffened and could not get away. A snake mihi-mihiman, i.e. the enemy hypocritical betrayer, which crept into the tree, also remained there and changed into wood. After a month's search, the uncle and his attendants found the lost children in the tanggula tree, in the tanggulan tree, and ordered them to come down, but they were unable to obey him. The uncle thinking this was the work of the evil spirits, someone experienced that of gurus, magicians, necromancers, to free his niece and nephew from the enchantment, all in vain. It seemed as if they had gone into the tree forever, but as various magicians had used their supernatural powers to free Raja's son and daughter, and the most powerful spells were in vain, they finally decided to build a simple inn near the Tangulon tree so they could spend the night near the two whom fate had treated so cruelly. They also decided to do everything in their power to free the unhappy victims, even if they had to summon the most powerful necromancers from foreign countries. A certain Sibaso Bolon, wise woman of midwife, climbed into the tree above the place where Sitapi Rajana was petrified. She shook the tree in order to free brother and sister, but to no purpose. Sibaso Bolon also grew into the trunk. Then they broke the famous Guru Pang Abuana, the keeper of Chile, Pang paralyzed, a wise man whose right hand was crooked. He was carried to the Harangan Ribu Raja, or jungle, where Sitapurajana and his sister had been changed into wooden images in the Tanggul tree. This guru Pang Abuana assured the family that his powerful magic could free the royal children and all the rest from the tree. But in order to cast his spell, he too was compelled to climb to the tree, and since his crippled leg made this impossible, he was assisted. He encircled the tree with his arms and tried to ascend, but lo and behold, even the great magician turned cold and stiff and remained stuck in the tree. As a last resort, a great buffalo was tied to the tree in order to pull it down. The name of the animal was Hobo Payung, the guardian Karbau. But even this was in vain. The Karbau turned at once into the wood and became a part of the tree trunk. When it was decided to fell the tree with a sort of axe tanki, but though hundreds of axes were used, one after the other broke into the pieces as soon as it came into contact with the trunk. Then a great fire was kindled at the foot of the tree to burn it down, but the wood refused to catch the flame. From Nagori Mandailing, they summoned Guru Sohalopoan Datu Sohagijangan, the unsurpassable, invincible magian, to use his power in order to free who were imprisoned in the tree. This guru was an Islamite who arrived after about 2 weeks. As a reward for his efforts, he demanded 7 kerbau's, 7 cows, and a tumba 2 liter of gold. All this was promised to him. The foremost magician did his utmost to cast a spell over the tree, but all his wisdom and all his supernatural powers were in vain. Guru Sohalopoan Datu Sohagijangan wept bitterly in shame and humiliation. At last he began to implore Allah, and as he prayed, he received the heavenly message not to attack the tree with an axe, but to cut it down with a sambilu, sub-silver of bamboo, used to sever nervous string of a newborn child. This guru did as he was told, with the result at the last with the result that at last the tree was felled. For 2.5 months, Raja's people had been mourning the loss of the royal children, so now it was decided to bring the tree trunk to their parents' house. For 2 days, they carried the trunk with the people and animals shivered into the wood. To the forest they went. Until one morning they arrived at Kampong just as the cocks were beginning to crow. They crowed at the top of their voices that Sitapi Raja Nawasan and Sitapi Donda Hasautan were arriving. The Raja's wife Puang Bodon, who had heard the commotion, promised that if the reports were true, all the poultry would be killed for a great feast. Buu moved the cow and saw from what the cock had just told. When the Rani heard this, she hastened to the Raja's apartments and told him the glad tidings. In his joy, he announced that if the news were true, all the cattle should be slaughtered and a magnificent feast given. About 8 o'clock in the morning, the tree trunk arrived at the village, where all inhabitants and all the animals were in fever of excitement. When the tree trunk with its burden of wooden images was carried into the village, the people wept, and the parents covered the children's faces with kisses, for strangely enough the face had not become stiff. But since no power in the world could free from the royal children from the wood, not restore them to normal life, the Raja decided to promote the tree to the rank of staff to God and to keep it as a sacred relic pusaka. The staff with the living heads was kept in the alcove above the roof of the Rumah Bolon, Pantangan pronounced Patangan, and was given the name Tunggal Panaluan, Tunggal masculine, Panaluan derived from Talu, defeated. A year after these dramatic events had taken place, a fire broke out in the Raja's kampong, but the Rumah Bolon, where the Tunggal Panalun was kept, was spared. The village was rebuilt around the house of the village chief. Still a year later was broke out with a neighboring kingdom. 2 days before this event, the Tunggal Panalun announced the enemy's coming, and in consequence, the villagers were on the guard and able to take necessary measures for defense. Nevertheless, the battle was lost, and only the Rumah Bolon was found to be impregnable. A courtier by the name Sibarowi kept watch in front of the Rumah Bolon. When the enemy were about to attack the house, the Raja, the Puang Bolon, and all the inhabitants were filled with fear. Sibarowi alone was filled with courage and took his stand in front of the Rumah Bolon. The Tunggal Panaluan whispered to Sibarowi that he must grasp the magic staff and so attack the enemy without fear. Staff in his hand, Sibarowi performed a war dance in front of the Rumah Bolon, singing a war song the while. A band of warriors is in multicolored panoply advanced to attack him, but he held the staff before them, whereupon they retreated, and so Sibarowi defeated the entire force of the enemy. When the country was threatened by an epidemic, the Tunggal Panaluan warned the people in advance and prescribed what measures must be taken. The Guru Huta, village priest or necromancer, performed a dance with the staff in his hand, and the sickness was averted. Gradually, the staff's protective power become known far and wide, so that henceforth all manner of people came to seek the Guru Huta, named Rabbang Sihala, and to beg his help and advice. Even gurus from distant countries was instructed by him. Guru Rabbang Sihala sold copies of the Tunggal Panaluan for the sum 24 florins, and that is why the Batak dance have such a large number of magic staffs today. Before performing a dance with the Tunggal Panaluan, it is customary to bring sacrifices to the magic staff, and all the various images are fed with a special food designated for them. In some places, the Tunggal Panaluan is kept in a special house 3 times 3 meter, situated next to or in front of the Rumah Bolon. This house also bears the name Pantangan. Long ago, there lived a Raja, and one afternoon, following a night in the full of moon, Tula, his wife brought forth twins. These children were a son and a daughter, Marpora's tubu. After birth, she produced a lifeless lump of flesh in the form of cucumber, with only two apparatus, the mouth and the anus. It also had the male organ. The dead child were buried under the pamis pisan, the straw of a ground where the rain drips from the roof, and a custom observed by the pagan Bataks even to present day. And as the third child must have been a boy, it was called si Tunggal Panaluan, Tunggal masculine, little man, Panaluan the third, thirdly. The two royal children grew up together. They ate and slept together and wore the same clothing. At every meal, they demanded enormous quantities of meat, and if their wish was not gratified, they became enraged and could not be pacified. Both were very beautiful, and always they roamed and played together. The son was called Sitapi Raja Narwasan. This name seems to signify lustful and insatiable, and the daughter Sitapi Donda Hatta Hutan, the timid. The playful intercourse between two almost full-grown children was strongly censored by the people as being in conflict with their adat customs. Intimate relations
between brother and sister are called in Batak marked down bigu. The parents to disapprove of the children conduct as it diminished their own prestige. As the children always demanded quantities of meat with their meals, they were great expense to their parents. The latter therefore decided to have the son Sitapiraja Nawasan brought to his maternal uncle Tulang, so that the children might be separated in hope that in the course of time they might force each other. The uncle lived on the opposite shore of the sea. Separated by deep water, the royal children were wept night and day and pined away. The parents therefore allowed Sitapiraja Nawasan to return home, and by the day, and day by day, the relation between brother and sister became more intimate, so that all the people were filled with loathing for them. One beautiful moonlight night, the two royal children fled from their parents' home and ran into the woods. When the Raja saw that they were gone, he searched everywhere but could not find them. Various gurus of the land were consulted and they declared that brother and sister must remain in the forest. The gurus were then sent out to look for the children, promising to return within 7 days, whether the search was successful or not. And so the following gurus were sent forth, one after the other, to look for the royal children, but they failed to return within the special time. Guru Datu Suhagijangon, the unsurpassable, incomparable magician. Guru Datu is a pleonasm. Guru Pangpang Abuana, the keeper chili. Sibaso Bolon, the great midwife. Jolma Subegu, half human, half evil spirit. Datu Salamaruhum, the unrighteous, the bribe. He who does not obey the adat, the willful. Perhaps this name means the destroyers. The buffalo, Hobo Payung, and the snake, Ulok Mihim, who spoke the human language, were also persuaded to look for Sitapi Raja Nawasan and his sister, but these two failed to return. Then voice were sent to look for might magicians from other countries, and they were found in the Nagori Langam CCH, thus at the end of the world, ultimate tale, hence very far away. There were Guru Tantan Debata, descending god, and Guru Aji Musa, Aji, second magic producing fear. After the voice had told these two gurus what had happened, the latter solemnly promised that they would find the royal children and restore them to their parents. Satangan baju of mandi enough to fill a court sleeve 120 florin was to be the reward. The gurus arrived in the land of the Raja and at once set out their search. Before long, they returned with the tidings that Sitapi Raja Nuwasan, Sitapi Donda Hasautan, and the various gurus were imprisoned in Tanggulon tree in the forest and unable to free themselves. The royal children did not wish to return to live because they had sinned so terribly against the adat. The various gurus who had been turned into wood declared that they too did not wish to be freed, but chose rather to remain with the children. However, they consented to be brought back to their village on condition that they might regard it as a sacred relic Ramat and named after the third stillborn child Tunggal Panaluan. This message at once brought to the Raja, who accepted the conditions since he wanted the children again at any price. In the wooden figures, the souls were still alive. Guru Tantan Debata and Guru Aji Musa then accompanied the Raja and whole people to the forest to bring Sitapi Raja Nawasan and his companions. In the presence of the whole assembly, Guru Tantan Debata asked exactly what foods must be given to each separate individual, upon which the following list was specified. Sitapi Raja Nawasan, daro mata flesh blood, bagot palm wine, si tapidonda hasautan, boras pinapa, piyang rice pounded, bagot. Gogodatu sohagi jangon, daging sipitudai, mi prepared in 7 ways, na malum nilabar niangur nianguranguron, sinalinggam, tasak tiga, pinanggang, nilopa, bagot. Grupang pang-abuan na ihan tinutung, roast fish, garam, salt, pege, ginger, bunga-bunga sa tukul, kembang sepatu o bunga raja, hibiscus rosa sinensis, bagot. Si baso bolon, bogag-bogag consisting of gawal na masak boiled bananas, dali na masak boiled corn, suhat na masak boiled keladi, tobu sugarcane, bagot. Jolma subegu, a portion of what the others receive, bagot. Serbu payung, sabut ni pangurubalang, bulung ni bira, leaves of the keladi variety, bulung ni langge, a sort of keladi, bulung ni suhat, a sort of keladi, bulung ni latong, a sort of nettle, bulung ya puspus, a keeper seming keladi, bagot. Ulok mihiman, tohuk, a sort of pork, bagot. Datu salam maruhum, tinaru manuk na masak, a boiled chicken egg, garam, salt, bunga-bunga, hibiscus, bagot. A raw chicken egg serves to anoint the whole staff. The horn of the horbo sinanggalatu triumphant karbau is used as a breaker wooden horn sahan. Beside this horn a bag or sack is the usual attribute of the datu. Now, Gugata Tande Bata cut down the tree with his knife. Pisau solam di bata, iupat ni meja hilap, itobom hon dumogotano, i.e. when the knife is drawn from its head, the lining flashes. When it is struck into the ground, the earth trembles. Before the tree was felled, Kubutantan Debata held a long speech, asking the figures how they wished to be treated. During this talk, he strewed yellow rice, boras binogna, and manipulated a bunch of 3 kinds of flowers, gudang gariagian. The ceremony is repeated even at the present time by even Datu who carries the tunggal panaluan. The trunk and its collection of images were carried to the Raja's house and left in the eaves of the Rumah Bolon. We will say something about the use of the magic wand. Tunggal panaluan. Duration of rain. Sometimes it is necessary that the rain shall be conjured, e.g. on the occasion of a feast, during the cultivation of the soil, for a journey and such events. If rain has to be conjured by means of the magic wand, the tunggal should be wrapped up in a white cloth. Round the top of the stick, a sweet-smelling plant, bane, should be worn. The figures of the staff should be rubbed with the yolk and white of the wolf's egg, and certain biscuits, guguron, should be offered to eat. Where biscuit is offered to the wand, the tunggal panaluan is addressed as Siburu tapi nawasan. Rain shall not fall before the feast is over. The agricultural work shall be finished, the journey made, etc. During this action, no formula need for be said. At the end, the wand must be held upside down, the legs against the rain, by which the rain will take the flight. Rain making. The tunggal gets a brush of red flowers. The stuff is wrapped from top to bottom in strips of red material. Salt, ginger, and fish are given to the wand, and it is addressed as Sidonda Hatahutan. Then it is plunged in water from the sacred spring, dwelling place of honored spirits, and in which a special kind of cut stone is laid, which is used for causing disease and is called Sanggapati Nabulon. When the tunggal is moistened in this way, it is going to rain. Consultation in matter of governing. When a Raja wants to talk over matters of great importance and think of great weight relating to the governing of the country, he must sacrifice first to the magic wand. The sacrifice shall consist of a special kind of pisang, the branches of fruit ground upside down, pisang sungsang duri and nangka. The staff is addressed as Sangka Panguran. The Raja goes to his meeting, leaning on this one. The meeting will then be a peaceful one. In the same way, the tunggal is used as support when the proposal of marriage to a girl is made. A sacrifice of siri is made. The staff is decorated with a string of beads and wrapped in a special kind of texture, abiragi hidup, while on the eyes of the images, the first red pipes or the pandia shrub are stuck. In this case, the staff is called level, waving with ceremony on waging war. Before going to battle, sacrifices are made to the one, consisting of fresh palm wine, fish, salt, ginger, and roasted meat. The stuff is afterwards entirely wrapped in red, white, and black strips of material, and it is addressed as Guru Mangat Takporang. During the battle, the commander holds the tunggal, leans on it, and holds it in front of the attacking enemy to cause fright. The causing of disease and death. For this ceremony, the one can only be used together with the sibyaksa. The sibyaksa is obtained the following way. An enemy taken prisoner in war is killed, cut to pieces, roasted in iron pots, adding several herbs. The substance obtained in this way is kept in waters, pots and stone barrels, guri, and a great magical effect is ascribed to it. Sacrifice are regularly made to the sibyaksa, and in bringing sickness and destruction, the causing of bad luck in general, the assistance of the sibyaksa cannot be done without. However, the sibyaksa, which is supposed to contain the soul of the dead, also bring good luck to its owner, and wards off ominous powers being born to the owner's will, submitted to his power, and although subservient to him. The following sacrifice is made: a dog with spots like a tiger, a red cock whose spawns have just come, 7 roasted little fishes, 7 little red flowers, 7 biscuits, a fish pasty, a roasted fowl, a water of palm wine, a calabash, a cucumber, a stalk of sugarcane, and ripe pisang. All these things are sacrificed, that is to say, they are offered as a food to the tunggal and the sibyaksa. While the sacrifice is wrought, the ill-omened wishes are acted. If, e.g., one wishes an enemy sickness or death, the tunggal is addressed as sidari mangambat, si upang mangaliri, the little poisonous serpent that affects, the poisonous serpent that pursues. These words are spoken, say, my Father in heaven, si dari mangapat, si upang mangalili cause to be destroyed, to cause a thief to be ill, or to make him die in connection with a track he has left behind. It is not necessary to sacrifice for this. The position of the one is sufficient, but the cooperation of the sibyaksa is necessary. When the track of thief has been discovered, some earth of the track is taken, which is wrapped in the leaf of the lenting plant. This packet is brought home and put in the sibyaksa pot, uttering the wish that the thief may fall ill or die. Mandudu. The word mandudu means the warding of bad omen and the obtaining of happiness and bliss, everything according to the wizard's regulations. If anyone wants to raise these secret powers, several preparations will have to be made. First, the magic figure is drawn on the ground in yellow, white and black flower close to the entrance of the house. When the bandudu is to be held by the wizard, the magic figure is shown in the equilateral drawing below called bindu matoga. The side are in this case 1 meter long. In the center of the drawing is put an X and a false egg. Point 5 is directed to the east Habinsaran. The line joining the point 5, 6 and 7 must be parallel to the front of the dwelling of the man where the mandudu is to take place. An elevation of altar langatan is erected near to point 1. To the altar is tied a red dog, cock, a spade, a rake, a plough, a yoke, a comb, and weaving tools. On the pisang leaf on the altar, the following dishes are arranged by the datu: rice, eggs, sugarcane, roasted paddy, candied biscuits, cakes, cucumber, roasted fish, boiled fish, fresh palm wine, 2 cocks, and a red one and a white one boiled in blood and cut into small pieces, cherut juice, and a basket of paddy on which a fragrant plant baneba is scattered. When all these ingredients have been exhibited, they begin to play the musical instruments. The datu rubs the staff with a raw egg and pushes it before pouring one into the ground. Beforehand, the white, black, and yellow flour with which the bindu matoga was made is kept in readiness. This black, white, and yellow flour is put in a basket, and holding this basket, the datu begins to perform a dance using the so-called pangarak sound, a giant's tongue or secret language. He invoked the highest deity, the tutelary spirit of the soil, and the corpse Boraspati Nitano, and the serpents of the holy places Naga of Baon, the female water spirit Sanyang Naga. Then he calls upon the lightning of 8 points of the compass and slowly walks around the Bindu Matoga. Then the datu takes the magic wand and takes his stand on point 7. He begins to hum and to sing. He pretends to give birth to the one, to feed it with rice finely and chewed by himself. He carries it on his back and his lap, and he carries it as a mother her baby. The chants sung in these occasions by the datus differ. Everyone improvised chants as well as he is able to with the intention that happiness should be obtained, bad luck warded off. Then the datu shoves a piece of fruit across his fingers. Thereupon he cuts off the head of the dog at one stroke, and after which he busts an ear from its head and offers it to all the effigies of the tunggal. Then he kills the red cock, the head of which he likewise offers to the one. He pretends to feed the tunggal on all the dishes on the altar. After the sacrifice, the datu drags the dog and the cock over the lines on the ground until the bindu matoga is quite wiped out. Then the dog and the cock are given to the host. Finally, the datu drags the scaffolding with all the things on it to the entrance of the village. The host may take back from there everything he wishes for himself. The Sembinu Batura figure may be used for causing ill luck to an adversary. This black magic is only used at night towards midnight. All sorts of similar rites take place. Stated invocations are made likewise and mysterious formulae pronounced. These magic actions are called manurungi.